All right, let's talk about one of the coolest, kind of hidden features of grammar. We're going to pull back the curtain on the secret identity of verbs and show you how they can give your writing some serious superpowers.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if a regular, everyday action word, like run or talk, could put on a disguise and do a completely different job in a sentence? It sounds like something out of a comic book, right? But it happens all the time.
And that's pretty much what's going on. A word you know as a verb, a word that's all about action, can suddenly transform into a word that describes a noun. This little trick is what makes writing so much more dynamic and powerful. Today, we're going to figure out exactly how it works. So, to really get this transformation, we need to know the lingo. Think of this as the origin story for our grammatical superhero.
Okay, first up is the big picture category these words belong to. It's called a verbal. That's the official name for any word that's made from a verb, but decides, it wants a different job, like being a noun or an adverb, or in our case, an adjective. It's the whole family of these shape-shifting words. And right here, this is the star of our show, the participle. It's a specific kind of verbal, and its secret mission is always the same: to act like an adjective. Its entire purpose is to jump in and describe a noun or a pronoun, adding all that extra detail and style. Now, like any good secret agent, participles have a couple of different disguises they can wear, so let's meet the two main players in this little operation. On one side, we have the present participle. This one describes an action that's happening or ongoing, and it pretty much always ends in ing. On the other side is the past participle. It describes an action that's already finished, and you'll usually see it ending in d, ed, or sometimes a weird one like en. Let's take a closer look. The present participle is so easy to spot. You just take a verb, stick ing on the end, and you're good to go. In our example here, smiling obviously comes from the verb to smile, but it's not the action in the sentence. It's describing the noun face. What kind of face? A smiling face. See? It's a verb doing an adjective's job. The past participle works the exact same way. It just points to a completed action. Here, chosen comes from the verb to choose, and it's describing the candidate. What about him? He was the one chosen by the party. Again, it's a verb form, but it's working as an adjective. Okay, so these participles are pretty powerful on their own, for sure, but they hardly ever work alone. They like to team up, bring some friends along, and form a squad. We call that a participial phrase, and it has even more descriptive power. So, a participial phrase is just the participle plus any other words that help it do its job. The key thing to remember is that the entire group of words works together as one giant, super descriptive adjective.
Let's see how you build one. First, you start with your participle, knowing. Easy enough. Then you add more info. What was known? Sam's total dedication to the campaign. Now put it all together. The whole phrase works to describe the director. It tells us why he might have dismissed him. A phrase like this just adds so much more context and depth to a sentence.
All right, so we know what they are, we know how to build them. Now for the most important part, how to actually use them in your sentences without causing total chaos.
This right here is the #1 golden rule. You have to put a participle phrase right next to the noun it's describing. If you separate them, things get confusing and honestly, sometimes pretty funny. So what happens when you get it wrong? You get a sentence like this one. Because the phrase swooping through the air is right next to the children, the sentence is literally saying that the kids are the ones doing the swooping.
Yeah, exactly. It creates this totally absurd picture in your head. This is called a dangling modifier. And unless you're writing a superhero story, you probably want to be a little more precise.
Now, let's fix it. All we have to do is move that phrase so it's right next to the eagle, and boom, the sentence makes perfect sense. Now we know it was the eagle doing the swooping, not the kids. Placement is everything.
And there's just one other little rule to remember: punctuation. If your participial phrase starts the whole sentence, like in our funny swooping example, you have to put a comma right after it. That little comma tells your reader, hey, the description part is over. Here comes the main event.
So, let's bring this all together. You now have a really powerful new tool in your writing toolkit. You know the secret. Let's do a quick mission debrief. Participles are just verbs in an adjective costume. You've got two main types, present and past. They build phrases to add more detail. Always keep those phrases next to the thing they're describing. And don't forget that comma if the phrase starts the sentence.
So why does any of this matter? Because using participles is what takes your writing from good to great. It's the difference between saying, the man was tired, he sat down, and saying, exhausted from the race, the man sat down. You feel the difference, right? It's more dynamic, it's more efficient, and it's just way more interesting to read. So the secret is out. Verbs can live a double life. The only question left is, now that you know, how are you going to use this superpower to make your own writing come alive? Thanks for joining me.